This is Audible.
Audible Studios presents Hush, written by E.K. Blair, performed by Elena Wolfe.
It's no use going back to yesterday, because I was a different person then. Lewis Carroll. Chapter 1. I've come to know illusions well. They're the phantasms I cling to because I'm not ready to let go of the comfort they give me. Most of what brings me solace and peace are nothing more than ghosts of my past, yet I hold tightly to keep them with me in the present for fear that, without them, I just might disappear too. I'm scared to be alone, even though, in some ways, I always have been. A jolt of electricity shoots through the thick blood in my veins. It's the one thing that lets me know the difference between reality and delusion. The spark shocks my system into high alert, forcing my heart to leap out of rhythm as my eyes widen in a storm of 1,000 questions my mind can't process. I crawl to the foot of the bed on my hands and knees, staring at the TV above the fireplace. Declan sits behind me, but I no longer feel him as I struggle to breathe. He's alive. It's all I can mutter as I stare at the paused screen of the news report. Who? Declan questions from 1,000,000 miles away as I stumble off the bed and walk in uneven steps across the room, closer to the TV. I reach out my hand as I near the image that can't be true, but is. I step onto the hearth, my fingers trembling when I slowly press them onto the screen. The moment I touch him, my heart ruptures and I cry out. Blood from my wounded soul floods my eyes and spills down my cheeks. My breaths fracture and fill the room. Strong hands grip my shoulders and I want to collapse, but I can't look away from the one thing I've been searching for my whole life. "Talk to me," he says, voice panic-stricken. Pressing my hand more firmly against the screen, I beg to feel the warmth of him on my skin. "Who is he?" "This is real, right?" I ask of Declan. "You and me, in this room. It's real, isn't it?" "Look at me." But I can't. I'm afraid to look away for fear that I'll lose him, that somehow he'll vanish from the screen. "Tell me it's real," I cry. "It's real, darling. I'm here with you." And with his words, an ugly sob rips out of my chest, but I catch it quickly when Declan steps onto the hearth next to me. As memories swirl inside, a mixture of foggy emotions fight with each other, and when anger claims victory and swells to the surface, I turn my head to look at Declan. His eyes mirror mine in utter confusion. "He's dead," I say to him, the words like razors slicing my vocal cords, but I speak through the pain as tears stream down my cheeks. "They told me he was dead. Why? Why?" "Who?" "I saw his grave. I felt the stone where his name was etched," I go on. "Why would they lie to me? Why did he lie to me? Why didn't he ever come for me?" Declan pulls me into his arms, pressing me tightly against his chest as I wail over and over, crying out for answers that don't find me, screaming for comfort in all of my whys. "Who?" he questions again, and when I turn my face and bury it into his bare chest, I sob through shattered dreams, broken hearts, and lost souls. "My dad!" I fist my hands against Declan's chest as his grip tightens around me. His embrace is unwavering and entirely hard as his muscles constrict around my weakened body. "Why am I so easy to walk away from?" "Don't do this," he scolds. "Don't you dare blame yourself." "Why not?" I scream, jerking my body out of his hold, pissed at the world, and for the first time in my life, pissed at my father. Stepping down and away from Declan, I turn back around and lash out in self-pity at the top of my lungs. "What did I do to deserve this life?" "Elizabeth, please, just take a deep breath." "No." He moves toward me, saying, "The last time you saw him, you were only 5 years old, right? How can you be sure that's even him?" I step up to him and seethe between my tears. "Because you don't forget the face of the one man you've spent your whole life aching for." There is no doubt that man is my father. Returning to the TV, my eyes are stoned to the bright blues I remember so vividly. Eyes I thought loved me beyond anything in this world. Eyes I thought bore black 6 feet under. But he's here, and I've never felt more alone. Elizabeth. My hands grip the mantel to keep my legs from failing me. Elizabeth, please, look at me. Elizabeth? His voice is both poison and wine, and hearing it causes my limbs to go ataxic, and I crumble to the floor. The familiar smell of clove cigarettes both soothes me and torments me. Is it true? I ask my brother, Pike, but Declan answers first. I'll do whatever I can to find out. Yes, it's true. Looking up, I shift my eyes away from Declan to the corner of the room where Pike stands. We both know I shouldn't be looking at him, because Declan thinks I'm taking the pills that kill my hallucinations, but I'm not. I can't say goodbye to my brother yet. Maybe never. But there he stands, alive, with his dark hair tucked under his black beanie and his hands shoved into his pants pockets with his inked arms showing. His eyes send love and strength before he nods his head over to Declan, and I follow his cue, knowing I'll lose him when I do. My throat swells in torment, painfully blistering as I sit here on my knees. It's my every dream come true. I just never knew the dream lived within an unimaginable nightmare. No matter all the anger I feel right now, one thing still remains. You can cut me deeply with lies. You can throw me into the flames of life's evils, but I will never give up on what I've always yearned for. With tears falling down my face in a steady stream of anguish, I painfully choke out the heartbreak of the little girl lost inside of me. I want my dad. In 2 quick steps, Declan is on the floor with me, holding me, rocking me, soothing me, and vowing to do everything he can to find him. Clinging to him, I take all the comfort he's giving and attempt to steal more, gripping him tighter and pressing my fingers deeper into his skin. If I'm hurting him, he doesn't show it, so I close my eyes and crawl onto his lap just as a child would. When I open my eyes again, they sting against the fully risen sun, and my cheeks burn with the bite of salt. I'm still wrapped within Declan's arms, and my body aches not only from being in this position for God knows how long, but also from the torture of the past couple days of being held captive. I hurt. Declan stands and scoops me off the floor before laying me on the bed. He hovers above me, looking over my battered face and body with eyes filled with rage and pity. His expression irks me. Don't. What? Look at me like that, like you feel sorry for me. I'm worried about you, that's all. He then hands me a painkiller that I slip into my mouth. I don't understand. I don't understand any of this. I don't either, but you've been through a lot lately, so I don't think your mind is capable of clarity. Mine isn't either, so let's focus on one thing at a time, okay? All I can focus on is why my dad's face is on that screen when it shouldn't be. I don't know if I should be happy or angry, I tell him. Why didn't he want me? Declan doesn't respond as he pulls me against him. I try to fight the haze from the pills that creeps in, but my eyes grow heavy when Declan whispers softly into my ear, lulling me with a comforting, "Shh, darling. I'll take care of you. I'll do what I can to find the answers." And as I hang on to his words, I give in, releasing a breath before drifting to sleep. Declan. Elizabeth trembles in her sleep as I hold her. My mind is a goddamn labyrinth as I close my eyes and attempt to process the past 48 hours. It's an impossible task, as visions race with 100 new revelations and 1,000 new questions. The only thing I do know is that I'm terrified I won't be able to keep Elizabeth from having a full-on mental collapse. Her face is a canvas of bruises, welts, and lacerations that illustrate the rape and torture she's been through. It pains me to know that I play a part, that some of those wounds were put there by my own hands, and the others were put there because I couldn't protect her from that asshole. Richard, the man I murdered. I didn't even hesitate when I put a bullet in his head after Elizabeth told me he killed my mum. The fact that I could kill so easily scares the shit out of me. It's a grim feeling to be terrified of your own self. I now know I'm capable of anything. I'm a monster created by this woman, whose body is wrapped around mine. I want an explanation, just as she. Who was Richard? How did he know my mum? Why did he kill her? What part does my father play in all of this? I want to know. I want to understand. But as out of control as I am, she is more volatile than I. She needs strength, so I have to set aside all that haunts me right now and focus on her. When her breaths even out, I slip out of bed and allow her the rest her body desperately craves. I stop before I walk out of the room and look at Elizabeth lying in my bed as a swell of contentment and anger rushes in a tidal wave under my skin. She's knocked my control off its axis, and I need to steady it back into place to keep her safe, to make sure nothing else happens without my say-so. Chapter 2. Declan. Christ, Lachlan says with a startle when I slam the double doors to the library, closing us off from the rest of the house. With my back facing him, my hands gripped tightly around the door handles in a lame attempt to control my turmoil. There's rioting in my bones, rattling me into a cold sweat. Pulling back to open the door slightly, I slam them once more, grunting, hammering my palm into the aged mahogany. What can I do? Lachlan questions from across the room. A string of answers fills my head and wraps around my neck in a tightening noose. I can't talk as I think about Elizabeth upstairs in a drug-induced sleep. Visions from when I found her last night flash behind my eyes in vivid detail. Her naked and bloodied body, the bruising and lacerations between her legs from what that dickfuck did to her. It brings up sour bile that I fight to swallow back. All I wanted to give her when she woke this morning was as much peace as I could. But instead, I watched her world erupt into even more chaos. Chaos she doesn't need. Chaos I'm worried she's not stable enough to handle. Declan. I turn and face my friend, thankful that he stayed the night and is here right now, because there's no way I could sort through my deranged thoughts on my own without smashing my fists through the walls and destroying this house in a blacked-out rage. How is she? He questions. Sleeping. The word is strangled as it comes out. I walk over to the couch and sit down, lowering my head to meet my clenched fists. My harsh breaths through my nose are audible. I won't allow Elizabeth to see this. She needs to believe I'm in utter control, and that she's completely safe with me. How is she really? He pushes for a better answer than the one I just gave him. I look up and meet his concerned eyes as he takes the seat on the other side of the coffee table. She's not good. I won't go into detail with Lachlan, because what's hers is mine, and no one else's. Look, what happened last night, what you witnessed, I start to say, but Lachlan cuts in. It's bolted. It better be, I tell him, my voice glazed in unspoken threats. You'll never speak of it, not even with her, understand? Without fail, he responds with a nod. I need your help, I tell him, shifting the conversation. Anything. I need you to find someone for me. Who? His name is Steve Archer. With a curious look, he responds, Why does that name sound familiar? He's Elizabeth's father. Her father? He reacts in surprise. He's dead. I came across his death certificate when I found her mother. I don't know. We were upstairs watching an American news report, and she swears she saw him. On TV. There's no way. She's adamant. Declan. Her mind has to be a mare's nest right now. I'm sure she's seeing what she wishes to see, he says. The man is dead. I shrug my shoulders, releasing a heavy breath. Pull the news footage and compare the two men. Lachlan steps over to the desk in the corner of the room, and I follow. directing him to the correct news station webpage. We find the video, play it, and when I see the man who Elizabeth made me pause on, I reach down and stop the video, freezing on his face. Him. It takes a few minutes to find an archived article on his arrest, but Lachlan finally comes across one with a photo. There, I say when I see the link. Click on that. And with a single click, I know Elizabeth isn't imagining things. It may be an old photo, but there's no way I can argue that it's not the same man. Holy shit, Lachlan says as he compares both of the photos. That's him. Tell me you're seeing what I'm seeing. I'm seeing it. Fuck. Raking my hands through my hair, I pace over to the windows, wishing I never had the goddamn TV turned on this morning. I can't allow anyone else to hurt her. I know. Jesus. I mean, she just found out that her piece of shit mother sold her when she was just a baby, and now this? I don't think she can take much more. Tell me what you want me to do. She won't let this go. Not that I could expect her to, but I need to keep the upper hand here and remain 2 steps in front of her. Find him, and nothing, not a single piece of information gets past me. Understood? I understand. You screwed up once, I berate. Don't do it again. He stands, steps over to me, and assures, you have my word. My glare doesn't waver because what's at stake is too precious to gamble with. Lachlan sees the doubt, grips my shoulder with his hand, and states firmly, I care about that girl too. Then don't fuck this up. With a curt nod, he squeezes my shoulder before walking away and pulling out his phone. I want security too, I call out. She's not to be alone. I'll get on that now. You'll do. I'm not security, McKinnon. You're right. You're a fucking dauber when it comes to taking orders, but after last night you're the only one I trust to keep her safe when I'm not around. I'll need to situate a few things in Edinburgh. Do it today, I tell him. You can stay in the cottage next to the grotto. The cottage? He laughs. You mean the maid's quarters? That's the one, you wanker, I respond with a chuckle. Oh, one more thing, I add before Lachlan leaves the room, exchanging the banter for seriousness. Thank you. Of course. I'm willing to go to any length to make sure nothing comes close to touching Elizabeth, but options are limited with the history the two of us carry. Although our time together has been short, it's been riddled with more than enough to land us both in prison, so Lachlan it is for us. Wandering into the kitchen, I walk over to the security monitor on the wall and check the cameras out front. I flip through them and stop on the gate camera. I'm watching as Lachlan's car drives out onto the main road when my cell rings. McKinnon, I answer. Good afternoon, Mr. McKinnon. It's Alexander Stanforth from Stanforth and Partners. How are you doing? I'm well, I respond to Alex, the architect that will be working on the London property I recently purchased. I hope you don't mind my calling on your cell, but with your interest in expediting the initial meetings, I figured I would bypass your office manager. It's why I gave you this number, Alex. Good. Well then, I'd like to set up a meeting to discuss the scope of the project, along with schedule and budget. Are you free next week? I can be free. Set it up and call my office to get it on the books and I'll be there, I tell him. Sounds good. I'll get with the team and give your office a call later today. Thanks, Alex. Hanging up the phone, I grab an ice pack from the freezer and make my way up to Elizabeth. She's sound asleep when I enter the room and sit down next to her. The side of her face is swollen. Black and blue mar her eye. Gently, I touch the ice to her skin, and she flinches. Sorry, I whisper when her eyes flutter open. The swelling is really bad. Her eyes are dilated dopey black, but she doesn't keep them open long. I watch her lie motionless, soft breaths filling the space around me. We used to dance, her hoarse voice murmurs. Who? Me and my dad. I don't say anything when she curls her body over and lifts her head onto my lap. Dean Martin was his favorite, she says sleepily, never opening her eyes. Volare, that's the song. He'd sing along, and I remember always giggling during the Italian parts. He had a good voice, I ask, keeping the ice on her. Mm-hmm, she answers slowly in her listless state. He'd set me on top of his feet and dance while I hung onto his legs. She pauses, letting time falter, and I think she's fallen back asleep, but then she begins to blink. When her glassy eyes find me, she whimpers. Why would he leave me? Never in my life have I seen so much heartache in anyone's eyes, and I hate that it's in hers that I see it. She wants answers, but I have none to give her, and it kills me. I thought I made him happy. Setting the ice pack on the bedside table, I turn back to her, and with her face cradled in my hands, I assert, I promise I'll do everything I can to give you answers. We will find him. What if he doesn't want me finding him? It doesn't matter what he wants. It's not his choice to make. This isn't the woman I know. She's something else entirely. She may have been putting on an act to deceive me, but she always had a bold, spirited backbone that a person can't fake. Beneath the lies, that part of her was real, but now it's lost somewhere inside of her violated body. She takes in a small, pain-filled gasp as she shifts her body. Why don't you soak in a hot bath? What's the point? Rot is rot. That's bullshit, I lash back. Rot has hurt you, but it hasn't claimed you, and I suggested a bath to help with your pain, not to clean you. My words are half-truths. I do want to clean her. Clean all the filth from the sack of shit that did this to her. I want to erase him from her skin because the thought sickens me. I want her covered in me, in my scent, with my hands all over her body. I want her to taste like me, smell like me. It's a feral need to mark her as mine, to own her, every single piece of her. Pulling her up to me, I press my lips to hers, kissing her softly when I really want to devour her, but she's much too fragile. Her breath on my tongue sparks a shudder through my veins, causing my pulse to race. It takes control not to throw her down, spread her thighs, and bury my cock deep inside her. I want to fuck her so hard she feels me in her bones. I force myself back, gripping her neck in my hands as I take in a deep breath that I release slowly. I've missed having your taste in my mouth, she says, her words not doing much to help me calm myself. I want more than just my taste in your mouth, but I can't let myself be that selfish with you right now. I won't be able to control myself, and I'll just hurt you. Getting out of bed, I go to start the bath before returning to her. Give me your hands, I tell her, and then help her onto her feet. Lift your arms. Moving slowly, I undress her, careful not to hurt her. When I have her naked in front of me, I quickly remove my clothes and then walk her to the bathroom. I step into the tub first, and then hold on to her as I help her into the water. She sits between my legs, leaning back against my chest with a grimace of pain. Her body is hard to look at. The bruises are enough to get my blood boiling. It coils my gut in a retching of turbulent emotions. There's a serrated bite mark on her left breast that I didn't notice last night when I showered her. What? She questions, looking up at me. What do you mean? Your body tensed up. What's wrong? I'm sorry. I start, trying for gentle words. What? But gentle doesn't come easy for me, so I go with honest. I want to take all these marks away, all the ones that aren't from me. I'll always be marked by someone else's touch. I always have been. I'd give anything to take them away, I tell her, knowing now that the scars on her back and wrists came at the hands of her foster dad. You can't make me into something I'm not, you know? You're not my charity case, if that's what you're inferring, I snap with irritation. Was I ever? Even in the beginning? No, you were never a woman I pitied. If not pity, then what? There's no easy answer. I don't understand you or your reasoning for all the shit you've done. All I do know is that I must be crazy for loving you, because damn it, I do love you. I've tried not to, I've fought it, but I can't stop. But what about what you said last night? You still hate me? Yes. She drops her eyes, but I bring her back to me, saying, I love you, Elizabeth. Do you really? Of course I do. I've killed for you. Chapter 3. Elizabeth. His words, his truth, they may haunt some people, but for my decrepit soul they soothe. It's true, he has killed for me, and I have also killed for him. I murdered Pike when I thought he killed Declan, and it's also a murder that I wish every day I could take back, but I can't. The only way I can have Pike is through my mind's trickery. But aside from Pike, I was a split second away from killing Richard last night, and it would have been all for Declan. In a sick way, it was going to be my gift to him, to rid the world of the man who took my love's mother. Declan wouldn't let me pull the trigger, though. He did it for himself, robbing me of the satisfaction. I wanted it selfishly, but if there was one kill Declan deserved, it was that one. Declan's eyes dig into mine, and I know I've touched a nerve by questioning his love for me. I'm sorry, I tell him, running my hands over his, which are tensed around my neck. I've never been anything but honest with you. I know. I didn't mean to be dismissive of your words. His grip loosens as he relaxes, resting his shoulders against the back of the tub. I'm having a hard time processing everything, I add. Then talk to me. Don't hold it in. Declan made his feelings known last week when I read the file on my mother. He made it clear he wants me to deal with my feelings instead of hiding them and locking them away the way I've done my whole life. I owe him anything he asks of me because of everything I've done to him, but sometimes it's just easier to go numb. Maybe later. I'm still really tired from the pain pill. But there won't be a later. I can't cut myself open like that for him because there's nothing that will stop the blood gushing from the wound. Declan's ability to connect me with my emotions scares the shit out of me. There's too much to feel. There's too much termagant despair inside me. I need it to go away and disappear so I can find relief. I'm in the arms of the man I love, the man I was so desperate to have again, and here he is. Flesh on flesh, every part of me touching every part of him, and here I am, scared and closed off. He's wrapped around me, and I should be content, but in this moment, I crave another man's arms. It's Pike I wish I had right now. He's the only one who can numb me. He's safety. He's constant. He's my painkiller. You'll rest better if you get your thoughts out, he suggests. Leaning forward, breaking the contact, I lie. I'm really tired. Can you help me back to bed? Don't shut me out, Elizabeth. I'm not. It's just the tub is uncomfortable, and I really am exhausted and not feeling well. I hate lying to him when I swore to him and to myself that I never would, but the alternative is unbearable to even think about. It's best for the both of us if I don't go down that road. Declan dries me off, brushes my teeth, and dresses me. I give him these things because he needs them. I know him well enough to see that he needs his hands on me, to control and take care. He's always needed that, and I can't even imagine what these past few days have done to him, with not knowing where I was and having that authority taken away by another man. After he applies the ointment to my cuts, he grabs the prescription bottle and shakes out a pill. Here, he says, holding the mood stabilizer that was prescribed to me by the doctor who examined me the first night I arrived here. It's the pill I've been tossing in the toilet because I don't want to lose Pike, and that pill will vanish him from me. I can't say goodbye, though. I don't want to. I need him. His smell, his voice, his presence. I'm not willing to let him go. I take the pill from his hand, and when he gives me a glass of water, I cheek it instead of swallowing. Another lie. Another deception I swore I'd no longer partake in. Another broken promise. Good girl. He walks me back to the bedroom and helps me get into bed. I'm going to run downstairs to get something to drink. Are you thirsty? I nod my head and watch him as he strides out of the room. When I hear the creaking on the stairs beneath his feet, I spit out the pill. Being in too much pain to get out of bed to flush it down the toilet, I shove it into my pillowcase until I can throw it away. When he returns, he slips under the covers beside me and pulls me into his arms. By the way, Lachlan's going to be staying here, he tells me. I want security, and with all that he's already seen, he's the only one I trust. Okay. Are you comfortable with that? Yes, I respond. From the time I've spent with him, I've come to like him. While you were sleeping, I spoke with him about your father. He's working on getting information. I nod my head against his chest, unable to speak through my tightening throat. I'm sure Declan feels my body tensing up when he bands his arms a little more strongly around me. Closing my eyes, I inhale deeply as he kisses the top of my head. I know it's upsetting, but I want to be transparent with you about all of this, okay? You don't think I'm crazy, do you? He combs my hair back with his fingers, and I look up at him when he says, No, darling, I don't. Lachlan was able to retrieve an old photo of your father, and it's the same man from the news. Declan's face blurs, and I quickly close my eyes before the tears fall. I can't think about this. It's the worst pain I've ever felt, so I focus on armoring myself against all that threatens to completely eviscerate me. You're stronger than your emotions, I hear Pike tell me, the timbre of his voice providing me with the strength I need to take control of my heart. Are you okay? Yes. There's something else I need to talk to you about. What's that? When I was in London, I hired an architecture firm for the new property. Meetings start next week, so you're coming with me. London? I question, pushing myself to sit up. For how long? For the duration of the build. A few years. I stammer, unsure of what to say. Then the realization that I have nowhere else to go hits me, and it all becomes so terrifying. If somehow I lost Declan again, that would be it for me. He is the only person I have, and without him, I wouldn't know where to go. Even though I'm now aware that my father is out there somewhere, it's heartbreakingly clear that he doesn't want me, or else he'd have come for me. You don't want to go to London? He questions. No, it isn't that. It's just, I don't really know. My voice cracks slightly, and Declan promptly soothes. You have nothing to be worried about. I'm here. I'm not leaving you. Wherever I go, you go with me. I don't respond as he holds me close to him. I'm not sure what to say, because even though he says I shouldn't be worried, I am. I really need you to talk to me, he urges. Don't close yourself off again. There's a desperation in his eyes, a neediness that reminds me of our time in Chicago. I played him well, deceiving him to believe I was locked in a violent marriage that I couldn't escape. He held the same desperation then. He tried so hard to help me, to save me, but I was always careful to keep him at a measured distance. I wanted him to believe he had all of me, but none of me at the same time. The game is over, though. No longer do I want to see that look in his eyes. It once gave me pleasure to know I had him fooled, but that absconded the moment he crept into my heart. But in order to keep my soul intact, I need to continue to move in calculated steps. I am worried, I admit. About what? About you. If there's no you, there's no me. You're scared of losing me? I nod. You're not going to lose me, you hear? It's not happening. I lost you once, though. It was my fault. Trust me, I know. But I still lost you. I still know that pain, and it scares me. I know that pain, too. It wasn't just you who felt it. His words drip with intensity. I felt it in my marrow. That's how deep you run through me. So much has happened. I wanted you the second I lost you, and now that I have you, I feel so... What do you feel? Reaching my hand up to his face, I run my fingers along his jawline and through his overgrown stubble, listening to it crackle against my palm. Disconnected, I reveal, and then drop my hand along with my head. Look at me, he demands, and I do. It's okay. I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around everything that's been thrown my way these past few weeks, so I understand. I'll take it away, I promise, but it's going to take time. One thing you need to know is that I'm here. I'll remind you of that every day if I have to. I'm here. I allow his words to attempt their quieting on my anxiety as I take my hand and cover the bullet wound on his pec, the one Pike inflicted on him with the intent of killing him. My thumb brushes over the raised flesh, and when I look up, his focus is on my hand. Guilt courses its way through my bloodstream. His eyes flick to meet mine, and I ask, "Did it hurt?" "Not as much as losing you," he responds, wrapping his hand around my wrist while I continue to run my fingers along my betrayal that's now branded on him for eternity. "I manipulated you. I lied." "You did, and I hate you for that. I hate you for what your lies turned me into." "But you missed me?" "I couldn't unlove you." Pressing my hand flat against his chest, I feel his heart pumping, and I decide to rip a piece of my own heart off to give to him, exposing a tiny part of what I know I must protect in the fortress of my soul. Declan has always had a way of cutting right through to the core of me. So I hand over my offering in the form of truth, letting him know. "You scare me." His heartbeat grows in force, exposing his frustration to my words. "What about me scares you?" "The way you break my walls so easily." "Why do you want walls between us?" "Because I'm afraid to feel right now. There's so much inside me that I'm fighting off. I'm scared it'll be too much." He lets go of a hard breath, upset with what I just admitted to him. He drops his head for a moment, and then, with controlled force, he grabs my other wrist and pushes me down onto the bed. I don't resist him when he straddles my legs and sits on top of my thighs. Green eyes scream for obedience, and I give him just that when he rips my top open, tearing the fabric and breaking the buttons to expose my breasts. The chill of the air hardens my nipples instantly, but it isn't my tits he's after. He quickly gathers both my wrists into his one hand, restraining me, and then takes his other and presses it firmly to the center of my chest. "This is mine," he professes. "You want me?" "Yes," I breathe. "You want to be with me?" "Yes." "Then this little heart of yours is mine. It beats for me, and I'll provide its protection. You hear me?" I nod. "You need to trust me enough to take care of you. I won't ever let you break." The rise and fall of my chest hits hard as I take hold of his words, needing them to calm my fears. "Do you trust me?" I nod again. "Tell me." "I trust you." Another lie. Chapter 4. Declan. I left Elizabeth reading in the library. It's been a few days since I found her, and even though the bruises are fading and swelling is dissipating, she continues to be distant. I've yet to fuck her. Not that I haven't tried, but I also haven't pushed. Taming the beast inside me isn't something I enjoy while I wait impatiently for her fragility to wane. Having Lachlan here has helped, though. Whatever friendship they forged while she was staying at the Water Lily has dulcified the awkwardness for all of us, leaving just minor remnants. Knowing what Lachlan and I saw that night, the state we found Elizabeth in doesn't seem to bother her as much as one would presume, as much as it bothers me. I figure her lack of shame stems from her childhood and what she was forced to endure. It was just the other day she admitted she saw herself as nothing more than rot. "McKinnon," Lachlan announces, redirecting my thoughts when I walk through the door of the guest house he's staying in. "Sorry I bailed on breakfast this morning. I hope Elizabeth wasn't offended." "Not at all. Important call?" "Yes, actually." I walk further into the house and take a seat in the living area. "I got information about Steve from my contact. And? He sits in a chair adjacent to me and drops a few papers onto the coffee table. And he's a dead man. What? Everything checks out. Take a look for yourself. All the documents, the funeral information with plot and burial. Even the death certificate is there. It's a dead end from that point on. Steve Archer doesn't exist. He's been dead for 16 years. I pick up the papers and flip through them, examining the trail of proof that he is indeed dead. What's he hiding from? I ask aloud, not expecting Lachlan to have an answer for me. That's what I'm trying to find out. I set the papers down, knowing damn well they're nothing but bullshit propaganda to support the prevarication of death, and inquire, what about the passenger manifest? I'm working on it, but we're talking about breaking some strict federal laws. I have a friend putting in a few calls for me, but it might be a long shot. I don't know if anyone is going to be willing to risk their job or compromise their values. Values can be bought for the right price, but we need more people on this, I stress with growing intensity. I want everything money can buy. Private investigators, hackers, everything we can think of. I know, and trust me when I tell you, I'm on it. He takes a pause as I let go of a frustrated breath. On another note, I got everything lined up at One Hyde Park, so the apartment will be ready by the time you arrive. I've never been more thankful for buying that property than I am now. You should have no worries with Elizabeth's safety there, Lachlan says about the building that I own an apartment in. It's one of the most secure properties in the world, if not the securest. The moment I started considering building in London, I went ahead and snagged up a dual-floor apartment in One Hyde Park. The privacy measures go above and beyond, from bulletproof windows to X-rayed mail. After being shot in Chicago, I not only transferred Brunswick Hill into a private trust, but also moved the London property into one as well. No one will know where Elizabeth and I are, except for the people I choose to inform. I need to go take care of a few things. I'll check in with you as soon as I get an update on the Archer case, he says as I make my way to the front door. Don't drag your ass on this one, Lachlan. I need this handled yesterday. I'm on it. On my way into the main house, I peek in the library, but Elizabeth is no longer there. Just the book she was reading, face down on the sofa. Elizabeth, I call out with no answer in return. I walk down to the atrium where I know she likes to lie on the chaise and enjoy the sun's heat through the glass. The room is empty, though. I stand for a moment, looking out the glass, and eventually movement catches my eye. I watch Elizabeth as she walks aimlessly. She loves taking long strolls outside to explore the grounds. I make my way out to where she is. What are you doing? I never knew there was a stream over here. There's a lot you haven't been able to see because of the snow, I tell her, pulling her into my arms and pressing my lips to hers. She quietly moans, slipping her hands under my coat and around my waist. You're freezing. I'm okay, she responds as I bring her in even closer, strengthening my arms firmly around her body. What are you doing out here? I want to talk to you, but you weren't inside where I left you. Where you left me? She teases, tilting her head back to look up at me. What am I? A little trinket of yours that you can place wherever you choose? Something like that. I shoot her an amorous wink and watch her beautiful smile creep in. Come, sit with me. We walk over to a bench perched aside the stream coated in ice. I just spoke with Lachlan and wanted to let you know where we are in regards to finding your father. Blithe ease fades into yearning hope rimmed in years of pain. Do you want to talk about this right now? I ask as her body language takes on a sudden shift. Yes. Her voice is full of anxiety, eager for answers. What did you find? Evidence of his death. But he isn't dead. Her voice pitches with even more anxiety. I know that. Lachlan is doing what he can to get a copy of the list of passengers. When we get that, we can go from there. Well, how long is that going to take? He's working as fast as he can, but he doesn't have any straight connections with the airline. Frustration marks her face as I watch her body tense up and fight back against the puddle of tears in her eyes. She's unmoving, and it's taking all her strength to not lose her composure. I wish I could give her the answer she's so eager for. It's a painful sight to see the one I love ache so badly. I reach my arm around her shoulders and coax, "It's okay to cry. It won't hurt as bad if you let go of some of the pain." "I spent my life crying for my father, and it's never lessened the pain," she says, refusing my words. "Look at me," I demand, and when she does, I continue. "This is not fine. You holding everything in is not fine." "Why do you want to see me break so badly?" "You're breaking right now," I rebut. "You forcing yourself not to feel the hurt. You pushing me away. You present a stone exterior, but it's just a facade of all your brokenness inside. You're a fool's paradise, but I'm no fool. I see right through you." "You're an asshole," she bites, pest that I'm calling her out on her charade, but I won't back down. "What are you afraid of? My seeing you in a light you're embarrassed of?" "I've seen you at your worst. Or are you still worried about feeling too much that you'll break apart and be unable to put the pieces back together? What is it?" "Why are you pushing so hard?" "If you can't put yourself back together, then I'll do it for you." "Stop!" "Is that why you won't let me touch you?" At that, she jerks away from me, but I grip her arms tightly. "Let go!" "Why won't you let me fuck you?" I hiss, losing my control and letting frustration and rejection spew out of me. "Answer me, for Christ's sake." My voice strains in temper as she fights against my hold, and I eventually loosen my grip and allow her to break away from me. She stands and stumbles back, fuming in pure anger. "Is that the problem?" she spits. "Your ego is hurt because you can't get in my pants?" I stand and walk right up to her, chest to chest. "You know damn well that if I wanted what was in your pants, I'd take it." "Then take it. I don't give a shit. If that's all you want, then have it." Her words taunt, but they infuriate me even more. "You're so fucking blind. It's not your pussy I want. It's so much more than just that. I want all of you. Every piece. I want to be inside of you because that's the one place you'll be so weak you'll have no choice but to hand all of yourself over to me." With a slight shake of her head, she looks deep into my eyes, confessing on a whisper, "I just can't." My hands clutch her face, and I speak with fervency. "You can. I need you to try." "But you have me," she cries out. "I'm here. I'm not running away." "Stop avoiding." "I'm not—" "You're here," I break in, cutting her off. "But you're not really here. You may lie next to me every night, but you're not really there. You're somewhere else entirely. Somewhere deep inside that body of yours, you're hiding away." There's no response on her part, only glaring eyes that expose just how furious she is. "How many times do I have to tell you to convince you that you're safe here, that you're safe with me?" "Let go of me, please," she requests in an even tone. I drop my hands from her face, and she immediately turns and walks away from me without another word, without ever looking back. I don't say anything to stop her. I just let her go. And before I allow my aggravation to grow any further, I too find my way back to the house and up to the 3rd level where my office is. Needing to relieve my mind of the stress, I busy myself with work. Between phone calls to the office and checking in on my Chicago property, time passes quickly. Lotus is thriving financially and is proving to be one of the most sought-after hotels in the city. Exclusivity is key, and that notion is proving itself. But I can't think about Chicago without thinking about my father. I haven't spoken to him since Elizabeth told me about his arrest. Honestly, I haven't even delved into his involvement with Richard, Bennett, or even Elizabeth's father for fear of what it might stir up inside me. Elizabeth would deem me a hypocrite, and she'd be right, which is why I haven't broached the topic with her yet. So for that reason alone, I call Elizabeth up to my office, and it takes her only a few minutes to appear in the doorway. "What's so urgent?" she asks, with a hint of agitation that's left over from our earlier quarrel. "Come in." She does, finding a seat in front of my desk. I get up from my chair and walk around to take the seat next to her. "First, I won't apologize for earlier, except for one thing. I accused you of being afraid of facing your fears when I've been doing the same thing." "What do you mean?" "I've been avoiding my father out of trepidation," I admit to her. "But I'm putting that aside, hoping you'll do the same for me." Her eyes soften. "So, can you help me?" I ask, and she nods, saying, "Okay." "The night I found you, you told me that Richard and my father were working together, using Bennett's company as a cover for gun trafficking." "That's what Richard told me," she says. "You also said that Richard was the one who killed my mum." She nods. With my throat constricting as visions of my mum getting shot in the head flash in my memory, I speak on a strained voice. "I need to know why it happened." She holds my hand in hers, taking her time before she says anything. "He told me Cal was embezzling money into an offshore account. Richard said he wanted to teach your dad a lesson that would ensure his loyalty." "So my father knew what Richard was going to do?" With a hard swallow and eyes full of pity, she nods. "He knew. It was why your dad left town. He didn't want to be there when it happened." My breathing falters in unsteady breaths as rage explodes in volcanic measures inside my chest. Every muscle in my body indurates in tension, and I let go of Elizabeth's hand for fear I'll crack her delicate bones. I pop out of my chair and it topples over. "That bastard has spent every day since her death blaming me," I fume, the blades of each word slicing my tongue, filling me with the blood of putrid hate. "He made me believe it was my fault." "No matter how it happened, Declan, it wouldn't have been your fault." I walk over to the window's edge, grip my hands on the sill, and drop my head as I hunch over. It's a battlefield of emotions, to which there is no victor. Outrage and fury fight alongside sadness and longing. I've mourned my mother the way no man should ever have to, but I did. I've allowed the pain to dwell in my heart, embittering it and giving it the power to grow into the man I am today. A man who can't relinquish an ounce of control without being consumed with unsettling fear. God only knows who I'd be if it weren't for this manifestation. I flinch when I feel Elizabeth's hand on my back. When I turn to look at her, her cheeks are tear-stained, and I wipe them away with my thumbs, asking, "Why are you crying?" "Because it hurts me to see you in pain." "I need you to see it, though." My voice breaks. She then reaches her hands up to my face, pulls me to her, and kisses me. She swallows up my ragged breaths, pushing her body against mine, and I instantly grow hard. It's a storm of emotions that begs to be released. With a growl, I pick her up, and she gasps when I drop her to the couch. She watches intently, trembling as I unbuckle my belt. "Don't tell me no, Elizabeth," I command. She jolts up, lurching off the couch in a panic. "I can't." There's fear in her eyes as she backs away from me, heading towards the door as if I'm some monster from her nightmares. "Bullshit. You can. You just don't want to." She continues to retreat, refusing to connect with me, and it's the last fucking stab to my heart I can take. I fucking love her, but she's built this wall around herself to keep me away. It pisses the raging shit out of me, and I explode in a thunderous roar when I watch her leave the room, rejecting me. "Just give me one motherfucking piece of you," my scathing voice ruptures, reverberating off the walls. Chapter 5. Elizabeth. His violent screams echo through the house as I bolt down the stairs to the bedroom, scared that he will take what I'm terrified to give. Not that I don't want to be close with him, but it's the ramifications I'm not ready for. I shut the door and try to calm myself down. What are you doing? I look up, relieved to have Pike here with me right now. Where have you been? I say breathlessly as I rush into his arms. I've missed you. There's never any temperature to his touch, but there's pressure, and it's enough to soothe. Just because you can't see me doesn't mean I'm not always here. Don't leave, I beg of him. Stay with me, just for a while. He strokes his hands through my hair, cradling me close, and I nuzzle my face against his chest. With a deep breath through my nose, I inhale his scent through the fibers of his shirt. I'm worried about you. An overwhelming neediness consumes me, and I finally let the tears fall that I've been holding in for days now. I miss you so much, Pike, I cry. It only gets worse as time passes. Is that why you're not taking your meds? I won't ever say goodbye to you, Pike. Don't even think about asking me to, because it'll never happen. I'm keeping you for always. I want you to get better, though. You make me better. You always have. We walk over to the bed and slip in. I rest my head in the center of his chest as we lie together, and even though I'm in the arms of a dead man, I feel at home. For the first time since Declan found me with Richard, I feel at peace, in the arms of my brother. He continues to hold me as time passes and the sun sets, darkening the room. Can I ask you something? Sure. Why are you shutting Declan out after all you've been through to be with him? You know why, I tell him. You know me better than anyone else does. Why are you letting your fear win? I'm not. I'm only protecting myself the way you taught me. I taught you to protect yourself against people who hurt you. Declan's not trying to hurt you, but you're definitely hurting him. Sitting up, I look down to Pike and take in each and every feature, unable to look away. What is it? What do you want to say? He questions, reading my face and knowing I'm hiding something. You'll think I'm crazy. He smiles, and it's so perfect with the moon casting its glow down upon him. I already think you're crazy, Elizabeth, but I'm crazy too. So, tell me what you're thinking about. My mind drifts back through our life together. He was always there for me in ways no one else was, giving me what I needed to escape and numb. Just say it. Take my pain away, I request hesitantly. He sits up, looking at me as if I've lost my mind by asking him for sex. Maybe I have, but I know what I need, and it's him. He has the power to stop the world from spinning so out of control. If even just for a moment, I crave the reprieve. Please, Pike, my voice filled with so much pain and sadness, pleads as tears drip from my chin. I'm not real. To me you are. Elizabeth, he says cautiously, and then repeats, I'm not real. But I feel you, I tell him, taking his hand in mine. I can feel you. It's not real. It is. He wraps his arms around me, and I cling to him, desperate for him. I'm not crazy. I feel this. I feel your arms holding me. Tell me you feel it too. Elizabeth, no. We can't. Why not? Pike takes my arms in his hands and pushes back to look at me straight on. Because of Declan. But he can't give me what you can. He can give you something better. It's too much, though. Trust him to know your limits. And trust me when I tell you that he loves you. He'll take better care of you than I did, than I ever could. You took perfect care of me. He takes my face, kissing me softly, and the selfish animal in me moves to wrap my arms around him as tight as I can to keep him close. But my arms slip right through him. My eyes pop open, and I'm all alone. He's gone with a faint shift in the air, whispering, I'm never too far from you. Pike! I cry out, but it's no use. His scent slowly evaporates as Declan's takes over, replacing the comfort of my past. I'm torn between this polar energy that pulls me from one end to the other, a tug of war. Pike is the easy choice, the safe choice, because with him there's no pain and no fear. Declan is a different story altogether, though. He's a multifaceted enigma with layers. creating an illimitable depth. If I immerse myself in him, I just might fall forever. But if his words are truth, he'll catch me. It's an unknown that's so unsettling it's terrifying. With every gust of wind from outside, I dart my eyes around the room, hoping Pike comes back, but he doesn't. Unable to sit still, I get out of bed and make my way to the restroom for a drink of water. After downing the tall glass, I set it down with a clink next to the orange prescription bottle. My mood stabilizer. My Pike killer. Shaking out a single pill, I screw the cap back on before walking into the toilet room and flicking it into the water with a tiny plop. I watch it disappear after I flush, and feel appeased to know that with this deception, I've given another day of life to my brother. Walking back into the bedroom, I notice the door opening and the shadow of Declan as he takes a step in and stops. The room, donned in black, is forgiving on my love's face, casting a muted blue tone to his features. No words are spoken as we both stand and stare at each other, while a tornado of words swirls between us. My earlier conversation with Pike screams the loudest of all, and the possibility of him being right about Declan saws away at the scar tissue of my heart, filling me with sorrow for the way I've treated him. He deserves love, compassion, and obedience, all the things I'm frightened to hand over. The lines of his face are hard, and when I see his jaw tick, he begins to walk toward me in even steps. My body tenses at the fervor he exudes. In sharp movements, he grabs my face and kisses me with icy control, stealing my breath and marking my tongue with his. I gasp. It's desire. It's sadness. It's fear. White-hot fear. "I won't allow you to be scared of me," he demands when he pulls away. Breaths hit hard for the both of us, my body trembling as I look into his dilated, lustful eyes. "I let you build this wall between us because I thought you were too fragile for me to forbid it. But I forbid it now." His mouth crashes into mine before I can say anything, and he takes my hesitance, swallowing it into his soul, breathing a new life within me. But he leaves a little behind to linger. He leaves it for me to give willingly. Releasing me from his hold, he steps back and sits in one of the chairs. In full command, he instructs, "Take your clothes off." The weight of my heart aches painfully in my chest, and the moment I drop my eyes, he takes notice. "Look at me." With reluctance, I do. "Keep your eyes on me." Every nerve ending is firing inside of me as I unbutton my top and drop it to the floor. I then move to slip my pants off and watch as Declan grinds his teeth. My stomach turns in anxiety, not knowing what's to come next, but I stand here and try with all I can to believe Pike when he says Declan won't hurt me. "All of it," he presses as he sits in the night's obscurity, shielding himself in its obsidian. Cold air trills in goosebumps along my flesh as I unhook my bra and drop my panties to my ankles, exposing the tarnished veneer to my aberration. The bruises have faded. The lacerations are nearly healed scabs, but we both know the garbage I am. I've told him my past in full detail. He knows my life in the closet and in the basement, and yet he grows hard for me as he sits and examines. He's too good to be a monster like me, too good to be turned on by the grotesque. "On the bed," he orders. "Lie on your stomach." "No," I blurt out at the humiliation that still remains from when he last took me from behind. Although my voice never screamed no, every part of my vitality did as he ripped me apart and violated me beyond boundaries I never thought I had. "On the bed," he shouts. I turn and walk across the room as my eyes prick. Taking a hard swallow, I will the vulnerability away. My back stiffens as I cage my heart in self-preservation. I can do this. When I sit on the edge of the bed, he stands, his cock pushing against the fabric of his pants. He walks over to me, taking my knees in his hands and opening me up to stand between my legs. "Do you trust me?" "Yes," I'm quick to answer, and he immediately shakes his head. "I'll punish you for lying. You know I will," he threatens. Let's try this again. Do you trust me?" With my neck craned back to look him in the eye, I give him the honesty he deserves. "No." Declan threads his fingers through my hair, fisting it in clumps, and I wince as it pulls through the scab that's almost healed. The scab he gave me when he ripped my hair out. The scab I kept alive by picking when I thought I'd never have him again. He keeps his forceful hands on my head, vowing, "I'm going to change that. Right now. Tonight. I won't allow you to fall asleep until I've done so." His words strangle me. I panic. "Take my belt off." I hesitate. "No." My fingers fumble as I work quickly to unfasten his belt and pull the leather loose from the loops of his slacks. He then holds his palm open to me, and I hand it over to him. "Are you scared of me?" "Yes," I respond with no mask. With his one hand clutching the belt and the other clutching my hair, he gives his next order. "Take my pants off and suck my cock." I unhook, unzip, and pull down. He's raging hard, and when I slide him into my mouth, he releases a guttural moan into the still of the room. My heart races as I suck him deeply. My hands grip around the backs of his thighs while I run my lips up and down the smooth skin of his cock. "Fuck," he groans, and when I look up to him, his head is tilted back. His hand squeezes around my hair, pulling it even more, ripping the scab when he bucks his hips suddenly, forcing himself to the back of my mouth. I gag slightly, and reflex with a swallow, the opening of my throat clamping around the head of his dick when I do so. "Jesus Christ." His words claw through the grit of ecstasy as he pulls out of me. In flashes of seconds, he slings his shirt across the room and kicks off his pants. We're entirely naked. He kneels down, draping my legs over his broad shoulders, and opens me with his hands. The sound of him inhaling deeply takes over me and becomes too much. I pinch my eyes shut, because the sight of him alone is enough to rip me to shreds. Why does he do this to me? Soft, wet heat slides through the core of me. It's a single lick through my folds that throws my pulse off beat, and I retract. "Don't," he barks, and when I open my eyes and look down at him, he continues, "Don't fight me. Don't push me away." And with our eyes linked together, he moves in and closes his mouth around my clit, sucking me gently. My heavy breaths are loud, staggering in rapture as I twist the sheets in my hands. He continues to watch me as his tongue laps and massages, spurring my body to grind against him. He's soft and deliberate, and then, in an utter contradiction, he bares his teeth and bites my clit, erupting a euphoric scream from deep inside my gut as the pain rips through my pussy and up my spine. I fall back onto the bed, my body now writhing when his lips replace his teeth. Black and white fill my eyes with gray. I want to scream for him to stop and, at the same time, beg him to do it again. I'm hyperventilating when he shoves his tongue inside me, the prickles of his beard chafing my tender skin. I'm swept away, floating in the air, unable to escape. I hear whimpering, and I know it has to be coming from me, but it isn't sadness my heart feels. I reach down for him, needy for some sort of anchor, and fumble around before he locks a hand to mine, holding it tightly. His lips are now on mine, as his body hovers over me, and he dips his tongue into my mouth. I slide my tongue along his, tasting myself, tasting him. It's a potent cocktail. "Turn on your stomach," he tells me, and when my eyes widen, he assures, "I won't fuck you like that. Not tonight." I waver for a moment when he begs of me, "Trust me enough to be powerless. I want you weak and depending on me, to know that I'll keep you safe. Give me that power back." I wanted Pike in that moment. It was a brief need that rushed through me. Pike was always the safe choice. Declan came with so many uncertainties. I feared becoming too exposed with him, and yet I feared becoming too distant with him. I wondered if I kept pushing him away, if he would eventually leave me. I couldn't bear that thought. I'd lost him once before, and it was the worst pain of my life. Whatever direction I went with Declan, one thing was inevitable: fear. I've been told in the past to never make decisions out of fear, but I was at a roadblock. Turn left, fear. Turn right, fear. I'd rather be scared with Declan than be scared without him. The choice was clear. Pike faded in that room as I allowed Declan to fill every vacant space. Turning onto my stomach, I rest my cheek on the bed and make the decision to let all my fears come to life. He takes my arms and crosses the belt around my wrists, then turns me over to bring the two straps around my waist, cinching the loop even tighter as he fastens the belt around my stomach. Bound with no escape, I'm completely his, en masse. "Are you scared?" he asks, kicking my thighs open. "Yes." "Good," he says chillingly. "I want your eyes on me. I want you watching me as I fuck all that fear away." Before I can digest his words, he slams into me with intense force, rocking my body backwards and kicking the breath right out of my lungs. I have nothing to grab onto as he rears back and thrusts inside me again. Wadding up a handful of the sheets beneath me, I hold on tightly as he begins to pump his scorching hot cock in and out of me. I move to wrap my legs around his hips, but he stops me, grabbing my knees and pushing them wide open and down into the mattress. His eyes are on fire, molten black. "Do you feel that?" he grunts. "You feel me inside of you?" "Yes." He then grips his hands around my shoulders and buries his cock so deep in me I whimper in ultimate pleasure. He keeps a tight hold on me, never relenting as he pushes himself as deep as he can. It's a searing pain in the tender flesh of my pussy, but so intoxicating. "Tell me you feel that." His voice strains. I nod, unable to catch my breath enough to speak. His cock begins to throb inside of me as he holds himself still, the pressure becoming too much for me to contain. He keeps pushing, deeper and deeper, until I can't take it anymore and I burst out in a breathless sob. It isn't from pain, though. It's something else. An unyielding need to touch him, to grab him and pull him even deeper. It's a reckless urge for him to permeate me wholly, to rip me open completely. All of him in all of me. My arms ache to be freed, but he has me restrained. I begin to scream, tears springing from my eyes, needing more, more, more. When I think the pressure can't go any further, it does, intensifying, blinding my vision. My chest bears 1,000 pounds of emotion, and I scream out, begging for more. "That's it, darling. Cry," he encourages. "I want you crying for me." And I am. Every tear is his as I sob for more of him. He wanted me weak, and here I am, happily weak and desperate. I'm thrashing and fighting the restraint of his belt, but it only makes my muscles burn even more. My whole body is a raging fire, incinerating all my doubts of his love for me. "I won't let you go," he yells over my screams. "So stop fighting." And when I do finally stop tugging against his belt and quiet myself, he leans down and licks the tears that coat my cheeks. "Are you done fighting me?" I nod, unable to stop the maniacal emotions from flooding out of me. "Say it." "I won't fight you again," my voice hoarse and cracked. He slowly releases the pressure, sliding his cock out of me, my muscles aching as I begin to lose him, but he returns with another forceful thrust, claiming, "I own you." His words provide solace as he fucks me in long, hard strokes. My vision clears, and his face comes back into focus. His body is covered in sweat. Every ridge of every muscle flexes and strains as he takes back the control I had been attempting to steal from him. It belongs to him, though, so I freely give it. I watch him move above me, and he takes my hips when he props up on his knees and pulls my ass off the bed. The roped muscles of his shoulders and arms bulge in swollen heat as he takes my pussy. My whole body begins to climb, tingling, sparking, igniting. "Ask me for it," he snaps, reaching his hand behind my back to hold my hand. as he always does when I orgasm. I immediately tense up, tightening my core, and he growls as I constrict around his shaft, fighting my release.
Let me hear you beg.
And I do, pleading for him to fuck me hard, to make me come, and he does. I shatter, exploding around his cock in pulsing contractions of passion, love, and trust, as he squeezes my hand that remains bound behind my back, reminding me that he's here for me, that I'm not alone in the ache we both share for each other. And just as I reach my ultimate peak, live wires spark through my veins, taking my whole body captive. He pulls out and shoots his cum all over my stomach and tits. His hand continues to pump his cock as he empties himself all over me. Tears paint my face in a piece of art that embodies a love so powerful it can only be ours. It's ugly and beautiful and painful, but it's ours. We are monsters and lovers, animals and killers, but nothing can extinguish what we have when we're together. He takes his hand and rubs his semen into my skin all over my stomach, breasts, and neck, before unlatching the belt buckle, freeing my arms. I immediately sling them around his neck. "I'm sorry," I cry, tears falling from my cheeks and rolling down his back. "I'm so sorry."
"Shh, darling,"
he consoles, whispering into my ear as he holds me tightly.
"I have you. You're safe."
He sliced me wide open, and I cry for a long while until the wound slowly mends back together. He holds me the whole time, patient, whispering to me, calming me down. I lie in his arms, covered in his feral scent, and when he pulls the sheets over our naked bodies, I take his face in my hands, telling him with absolute certainty, "I love you." My heart weeps as I say the words, and fresh tears slip out, but I say it again because I want no doubt. "I love you." He kisses me, and it's tender. Lips brushing lips, sucking and licking. He isn't taking, it's purely giving.
"I don't want you to ever go a day without knowing how much I adore you,"
he tells me.
"You're life-consuming."
With tangled legs, bleeding hearts, and tethered souls, we claw each other through the night, desperate for unsurpassable symbiosis. Chapter 6.
Karma is often slow to respond, and because of its intimate relationship with destiny, often waits until a future incarnation. I won't have to wait that long, though. It's been long enough. Fate became my divinity today when I got a phone call from an old buddy I hadn't heard from in a while. Seems there's a guy who needs to get his hands on an airline flight manifest, the same airline I've been working at for the past decade. It's not the first time I've been approached to do something that would entail turning my back on the oath of honesty this job requires. But this is the first time I want to turn my back, and I did. All it took was one name, Steve Archer. I first heard that name 16 years ago when my brother was arrested for smuggling guns over international lines. I sought my revenge on that man after I found out he ratted out my brother, but it was too late. He was already dead. Or so I thought. I hung up the phone and immediately pulled up the manifest for the flight in question. Since I work for the airline's IT department, retrieving the document took mere minutes to do. Steve Archer wasn't on the list, though. But that's okay, because I have the man's name that's looking for him, Lachlan Stroud. He will serve as my map, leading me to fulfill long overdue retribution. Chapter 7. Waking up this morning is surreal. It's what I used to fantasize about back in Chicago when Declan told me about this estate. And although I've been staying here with him for a couple weeks now, this is the first time I've truly felt connected to him. He's made his feelings known. He's made it very clear that he's not leaving. I've had my doubts, but after talking to Pike last night and Declan forcing me to reconnect and trust him, something has shifted between us. I'm snug in his arms as I watch the sun bathe the walls. Everything around me glows in warmth. My body sinks into the arms of my prince as we wake in our castle.
I try to control my elation, because this world is filled with unknowns that lurk behind the corners of life's winding streets. But for now, I'm at peace. I watch Declan as he sleeps, and for the first time, I see the stress I've inflicted up close. It's in the extra gray hairs that weren't there in Chicago. It's in his beard that's a few weeks overgrown. It's in the deepening lines at the corners of his eyes. I reach out and run my hand along his jaw, through the bristly hair of his beard. It crackles against my palm, and I smile. He begins to rouse, but I don't stop touching, feeling, studying. Every touch, smell, sight, I cement to my memory, carving everything about him into the delicate flesh of my heart. Strong fingers comb through my hair as he wakes, opening his eyes, bright emerald green. "Morning, darling." His voice is wrapped coarsely in sleepiness. I hum softly, nuzzing my head against his chest, and I fall deeper into his hold when he tightens his arms around me. His body is so warm against mine, and I wonder what I was so afraid of. How did I allow my mind to trick me into believing he was the one to fear? So many questions come to life, and I want to punish myself for doubting him so much, for shutting him out, for not trusting his love. "Tell me how you feel," he requests, and without any hesitation I respond, "Safe." He rolls over on top of me, propping himself up on his hands. I push a lock of hair back that's fallen over his eyes and keep my hand fixed in his thick tresses. "This is all I wanted, you know. You, here with me, safe." "I'm here," I whisper softly. He drops tender kisses along my shoulder, across my collarbone, and over the swell of my breasts. I feel his cock harden against my thigh beneath the sheets, and I open my legs for him to settle against me. His lips move down the length of my body, and his soft kisses intensify when he sinks his teeth into my flesh. His greedy hunger punctures, and I scream through the pain, but I don't want him to stop. Blood trickles along my stomach and legs as he continues to bite me between his gentle kisses. This is how savages love. With his scent from last night still dried on my body, he now marks me in a different way. My legs open wider when he buries his head between my thighs. He's a wild beast, fucking my pussy with his mouth. He leaves my hands free to pull and rip his hair as I mewl loudly in sexual delirium. Time no longer exists in this room as he devours me powerless. He doesn't stop after my body explodes. He keeps going, sending me into a free fall. Every bone in my body aches, both his hands holding both of mine through every orgasm that pounds through my body. It becomes too much, but I don't deny his appetite. I let him take me higher as my chest seizes in overwhelming paroxysms of love. It's only when I lose my breath and begin to gasp for air that he stops. He moves above me, but I can't make out his face. Everything is drowned behind hazy pops of light as I struggle to fill my lungs with its life source. My body lies limp on the sheets that are drenched in our arousal, sweat, and blood. There's no doubt that Declan is as raw as they come. But that's what I love about him. This love is shamelessly amaranthine. He's all over me. I'm all over him. There's no doubt we belong to each other. My body is sore as I walk down the stairs with Declan. We're showered and dressed and in dire need of food. Walking into the kitchen, Lachlan says goodbye to whomever he's talking to on his cell. "Afternoon," he greets when we walk in. Declan starts pulling out food from the fridge, and I eye Lachlan's cup of coffee and the French press on the table, asking, "Is the kettle still hot?" "Yes." I take a teacup down from the cabinet and begin to prepare a cup of hot tea. "Roasted tomatoes and toast." "That sounds good," I respond to Declan as I take my tea to the table to join Lachlan. It's been nice having him around. When Declan is up in his office working, Lachlan will often take walks with me outside. It's a relief that his treatment of me never changed after what he saw the night he and Declan found me. His banter has been a welcome reprieve from the stress of late. "Are you hungry?" He takes a sip of his coffee before responding.
I had a bowl of oatmeal already.
I try to hide my laughter, but he catches me, giving me a questioning glare. You eat that every morning.
It's good.
It's old man food. He removes his glasses and sets down the newspaper he's reading and teases,
Says the old lady who's about to eat toast for a meal.
Touché, I admit with a smile, and quickly change the direction of conversation, asking eagerly, Have you found any leads on my dad?
I've made calls to all the contacts I have that have links to the airlines. I'm waiting to hear back.
Well, how long do we just sit and wait?
I know you're anxious, he tells me, but it's been only a day. I promise you I'm doing all I can, love.
Lachlan, Declan calls out when he shuts the oven door, taking Lachlan's attention.
What did you decide about London? A hotel would be best.
A hotel? I ask. A hotel for what? Declan takes a seat next to me at the table.
Lachlan's coming with us to London.
Why?
For protection.
I don't need a babysitter, Declan.
Is that so?
Narrowing my eyes, miffed, I respond, Richard's dead. What are you worried about?
When it comes to you, everything.
I look to Lachlan and tell him, No offense, but I don't need you looking over my shoulder.
I agree with Declan on this one.
We'll be living in one of the most secure buildings in the world, I argue. What could possibly happen?
What about Jacqueline?
Jacqueline? Richard's wife? I practically laugh. She's nothing. She's a socialite, a housewife, a whore.
A widow, Declan interrupts harshly. She knows we killed her husband.
She doesn't have it in her. She's too weak.
I wouldn't be so quick to underestimate. She's lost everything, and now her baby has no father.
Richard wasn't her baby's father, I reveal. It's Bennett's child. Declan's brows cinch together in question, and I explain. He got her pregnant while I was married to him. I didn't know until after he died. That bomb was laid on me when I went to have the will read. Bennett left the business assets to him. He quickly looks to Lachlan, saying,
Could you give us a minute? Of course.
Once Lachlan leaves the room, Declan continues.
You took his money.
His accusing voice has a lick of judgment to it, sparking a tingle of rebellion from me. Yes, I bite. I took it.
How much?
Not as much as his bastard child got, but enough. His teeth grind before he presses further, stressing his words.
How much, Elizabeth?
My hands grow tense when I think about the number, but I tell him the truth. 1.2. Declan releases a relieved sigh, and it's then I realize he's assuming fewer zeros, so I clarify, adding, billion.
Billion?
He blurts out. Yes, Declan, 1.2 billion. Surely you knew how wealthy he was. This shouldn't come as a surprise. The only thing that was surprising was how little I got. My words are snappy, and it frustrates me to see his indignation. What? I question with vexation. Stop looking at me like that. If you want to say something, just say it.
You can't take that money.
Why not? Do you have any idea the hell I went through to get it?
But why? For what purpose, really? Because, unless you've left out some important detail, Bennett was, by all accounts, an innocent man.
Innocent? I yell as heat creeps up my neck. His lie took my father from me. His lie put me in that foster home. His lie raped me of the life I deserved.
He was a child, for Christ's sake.
If you want to rationalize this, do it with someone else.
I saw the way he looked at you, Elizabeth.
Stop. My voice is cold and hard and blatantly demanding.
He loved you.
Stop. I shake my head, blocking his words, and refute. He loved an illusion. He loved Nina, the woman who molded herself to be everything he ever wanted in a wife. It was a con, so don't you make me feel guilty.
But the con is over.
It may be over, but my feelings about him haven't changed.
I see that,
he finally concludes.
I understand your need to pen the blame for all this. It's just, You're blaming the wrong person.
What does it matter? He's dead. It's not like I can hurt him anymore, even if I wanted to. His eyes are sternly focused on me when he repeats, "You can't keep that money. I killed him. I don't want that on my hands. You may not see this clearly for what it is, but that doesn't mean I don't." I shake my head, not wanting to lose everything my brother and I worked so hard for.
It's just money. Money you don't need because you have me.
That's not the point, I tell him. And besides that, how do you suggest getting rid of that amount of money without raising suspicion?
What about his parents?
Are you kidding me? I exclaim. His father took my dad out. They worked together, and he used Bennett's claim to ensure my dad would be out of the way so he could move up the chain and make more money. Bennett's father hated him. Declan lowers his head and pinches the bridge of his nose. I know he's stressed trying to digest all this information I'm throwing at him. It's generations bound by a twisted web of deception and fraud. Everyone is a con in someone else's agenda.
If I found a way to get rid of the money, would you do it?
I look at him as my mind goes to Pike. I think about all he gave up for those few years while I worked the scheme with Bennett. I think about his life in that shithole trailer, about the days, weeks, and sometimes months we'd have to be apart. This is as much his money as it is mine. Am I really going to just toss it away as if everything we sacrificed wasn't worth it?
Tell me your hesitation.
Pike, I blurt without thinking first.
Your brother.
He earned that money too.
Declan reaches over and takes my hands in his, as his eyes immediately soften. Elizabeth, you're making decisions based on people that are no longer alive,
he tells me as gently as he can, but his words still hurt.
When people die, the world changes whether you want it to or not. Your refusal to change with it is doing nothing but hindering the future. A future you deserve. But I'm telling you now, I can't live in the past where you still are.
He motions for me to come to him, and I do. Pulling me onto his lap, he wraps me up in a strong hug, and I hold him close. I need comfort because I'm not sure if I can continue to carry the weight of my world anymore.
I need you to let go of the past. I'm not asking you to do it all at once, but you're with me now. I'm your future. Can you do that? At least try to.
I loosen my arms and pull back to look in his eyes.
Start with the money, he tells me. Don't hang on to this for me. Let the money go. It isn't worth pushing Declan away.
Okay, I agree with a boulder of reluctance, but Pike is right. I can't take a step back with Declan when we're finally moving forward. He smiles, repeating,
Okay.
Chapter 8.
I got the address, my buddy tells me when I answer my phone. I'd be stupid to email, fax, or deliver this manifest in any other electronic way. I don't need my ass getting busted for this breach of security with the FAA. With an address, I can pay off some random Joe to mail this off from any location. But more importantly, I now have a point of contact. Thanks. I'll get this overnighted. Now, I need to start making a few calls because I need a PI, and quick.
Chapter 9.
I'll get you added to my account so you can go shopping. I don't want you touching Bennett's money anymore,
Declan says when I zip up my luggage. What are you talking about? He eyes my bag, asking,
Those are all your belongings, right?
Yes. Well, most of them. I left everything else behind in Chicago. It felt strange to keep them. Those are all Nina's clothes, not mine.
That's why you need to go shopping.
I take my luggage off the bed and set it on the floor before taking a seat on the mattress.
Did I say something wrong?
He questions as he walks over to me. No, it's just... He takes a seat on the bed next to me.
Tell me.
I've never had money, I begin. I came from white trash. It was one thing for me to spend Bennett's money because I hated him and it felt good. But I've never... I stumble over my words, unsure of how to say what I'm attempting to, and finally conclude, I don't come from your world, Declan. I can fake it. I can blend in. But at the end of the day, I'm just a runaway street kid. And you asking me to spend money, it doesn't feel right.
Darling.
I wouldn't even know what to buy. I don't know what I like and don't like. I've never had the luxury of that choice because I wore whatever scraps we could afford from thrift stores and garage sales. It was easy shopping on Bennett's dime because I simply copied what the other women in his circle were wearing. I paused for a moment before admitting, I know Nina well, but I have no idea who I am because I've spent my life caged up and detached, and when I was with Bennett, I was simply pretending to be what he wanted.
You have choices now, Declan says, and you have time. You take all that you need to find yourself. That's one thing I won't rush you to do. But I don't want you feeling guilty for the things I want to give you. You may not have started in my world, but you're here now.
A part of me still doesn't feel like I deserve to be. I don't doubt you when you say you love me, but it feels undeserving.
It's not. If I could give you more, I would. Nobody should ever have to face the nightmare that you did.
He takes my chin, angling me to him when he states,
You are not trash.
Some of those choices were mine, though.
Like what?
Pike. His hand drops as he sighs.
I've tried to make sense of your relationship, and although I hate knowing that side of you too, all I can conclude is that you guys were just two kids trying to survive in a world that was deeper than hell. But you're right, it was a choice you made. Luckily, our choices don't define us.
He then cradles my face in his hands, saying,
And you, darling, you were never a choice. You were put on this earth, destined to be loved by me.
And with his words, in our continuing need to reclaim each other, he throws me back onto the bed, strips me, ties me up, and fucks me. It's raw and primal and everything else Declan embodies. Later that day, after all our bags are packed and the boys have prepped the property for our vacancy, we are ready to go to London. I feel like a child on her way to Disneyland, and I wear it on my face in an obnoxious smile. Lachlan loads our bags as I sit with Declan in the back seat of his Mercedes SUV.
You seem mildly excited,
Declan teases, giving my hand a gentle squeeze. I turn my head to him. Is it that obvious?
Insanely obvious. You might as well be skipping instead of walking.
Skip? I'm not sure I ever learned how to skip, but keep joking with me and I just might.
Well, that's everything, Lachlan announces when he gets into the front seat. Are we ready?
Declan looks to me, and I give him an approving nod. I'm ready. Lachlan drives down the winding road that leads to the gates I used to cling to and cry when I thought Declan was dead. He pulls out onto the main street, and as we get further away, a part of me feels free. Even though I love Brunswick Hill, I'm ready for a little distance. So much has happened in the past couple weeks, so many lows, so much anger blended with beatific highs of love and newborn trust. It's a roller coaster I'm ready to get off because I'm craving the stability of walking with Declan on a solid surface. Declan never lets go of my hand. It's a simple gesture that reassures I'm safe with him throughout the trip.
Take her over London,
Declan calls out to the pilot who has the cockpit open on his private plane. The plane's wing dips down as we turn, and Declan kisses me. It's love and avidity, devotion and prurience as he takes ownership of my mouth, forcing me to breathe the air from his lungs. If Lachlan weren't on this plane with us, I'm sure Declan's cock would be buried inside my body right now. He eventually relents, pulling back, leaving me breathless.
Look, he says, pointing out my window.
I look down and smile when I see London lit up in the night's darkness, and it's magical. We fly over the River Thames where the Tower Bridge glows brightly above the water. Declan points out the major landmarks as we pass them, and I drink in every word he says. Parliament, Big Ben, and the London Eye are behind us in a blink of a moment as we prepare to land at Biggin Hill Airport. Once landed, it's another hour drive into Knightsbridge, London. We pass designer storefronts and swanky restaurants that line the brightly lit streets. Everything about this area screams luxury. "We're here," Declan tells me when Lachlan pulls the car into an underground parking garage that's heavily secured. "You doing okay?" "Mm-hmm, just a little tired." Lachlan finds our designated parking spot and turns the car off. We make our way through the garage, and Declan wasn't lying when he told me how private this place is. I watch as Declan approaches a sleek black box mounted on the wall. He leans his face in, placing his eyes up to the lenses, and hits the silver button. A few seconds later, the door clicks, and he's able to open it. "What was that?" I question. "Iris scanner," he tells me. "It's the only way to get through the first set of doors. We'll get you into the system tomorrow." I follow him next through the fingerprint sensor that opens another door, and the last door is secured by a key card. 3 barriers of security, and we're finally inside the building. He takes my hand, and with a sexy smile says, "Welcome home." "It's practically a fortress." "Practically," he repeats before stopping at the concierge to drop off the keys to the car and instructing the delivery of all our luggage. Lachlan stays behind in the lobby as we step onto the elevator. It's one thing for me to be Mrs. Vanderwall, living in the penthouse of the Legacy, but this is on a totally different scale. When Declan told me we'd be living here, I did my research. I knew I'd be living among the world's elite: Ukrainian business moguls, Qatar's former prime minister, Russian real estate magnates, among others. We may not be living in the penthouse, but the 7th floor is as intimidating as any penthouse in the United States. It's a simultaneous finger scan and keycard scan to unlock the door. "After you," Declan says as he motions for me to enter. I walk through the grand foyer into the impressive living room. Everything is razor-sleek lines, clean and simple. Intricate raindrop crystal chandeliers cascade their soft glow over the crisp white walls and white furniture, creating a warmth to the otherwise stark color. The rich mocha woodwork is a pleasant contrast to the white, warming the space even more. It's contemporary design at its most opulent. "What do you think?" Turning my head to look over my shoulder at Declan, who's still standing in the foyer, I respond with phony condescension. "A bit much, isn't it, McKinnon?" "You're displeased?" "It'll do," I tease with an ever-so-slight grin, and he laughs, saying, "Well, it's all yours. Go ahead, darling. Explore." I look around, opening every door and peeking in every room. The kitchen is outfitted in commercial-grade appliances, and the bathrooms are as lavish as those you'd find in upscale spas. Every perimeter is lined with floor-to-ceiling, wall-to-wall windows that overlook Knightsbridge. There's an office upstairs that's clearly been furnished by Declan because it's filled with a rich Chesterfield couch and chairs, the same as his office in Chicago and his library in Scotland. And both bedrooms, one on each wing of the 2nd floor, have en-suites and large, plush beds that stand taller than your average. "This one is ours," Declan whispers from behind my ear as I stand in one of the bedrooms. His lips press against my pulse point, sending shivers up my arms. "It's perfect." We stand in front of the window, looking down on the lights of the city, and I cannot believe I'm here, in London, with a man who knows my truth and loves me regardless. I read an article about this building the other day. They said it was soulless and devoid of life. I know it was referring to the secrecy of its occupants and everything else, but if they only knew what was behind this bulletproof glass. "And what's that?" he questions, and when I turn around in his arms and look up at him, I respond, "Life." He leans down, kisses my forehead, and I speak softly to him. "I've never felt so alive as I do with you. Right here, right now. I never thought this was possible, to feel the way I do." "I've never wanted this with anyone else, even in my darkest days without you. Even when I thought I couldn't hate you more, I still wanted you." Before he can get the chance to kiss me, the ring of the doorbell sounds. "Ball bags," he fumes in irritation at the interruption, and I can't help but laugh at his Scottish curse. It really is an ugly language, but the accent is beyond sexy. I follow him downstairs to the living room, and when Lachlan walks in with 2 employees with our luggage, I beam with excitement. "Have you seen this place?" He doesn't respond to me, but instead approaches Declan, asking, "May I?" As I watch in curiosity. "She's all yours," Declan tells him. "She's about as excited as a lass at her first tea party." Lachlan laughs, walking straight towards me, and I can't help my own laughter at his demeanor. He grabs me, picking me up as if I were a little girl, and gives me a joyous embrace. "The smile you wear makes dealing with McKinnon's shit-stained moods worth my while." We laugh as he sets me down, and I'm so thankful for his loyalty to Declan and the friendship he's given me. He's 20 years my elder, and I find comfort in that. As if I can look to him for guidance in a way I can't with Declan. In a way a child might look to a parent. He gives me that feeling, and it's settling. "Thank you."
"For what, love?"
"Opening my car door the night I first met you."
"Oh yes, our first date,"
he animates in a shameless attempt to taunt Declan. And Declan doesn't miss a beat when he responds,
"Fuck off, Lachlan, and you can get your hands off her now. You got your hug. You're done."
His words are harsh, but they're in jest. These boys go way back to their days at St. Andrews, so it's no surprise they fight like brothers, despite their age gap.
"Well then, if all is in place here, I guess I'll head to my hotel."
"Lachlan, wait." He takes a step closer to me, and I ask, "Have you heard anything about my dad? Good or bad? Has anyone called you?"
"You've been with me all day,"
he says, but no matter how content I feel, there's still unsettling anxiety when it comes to my dad. "I know,
I promise you I'm doing everything I can, love. We'll find him for you."
I nod as I feel the weight of the unknown swell in my chest, and Declan immediately senses it. He quickly dismisses Lachlan when I wander over to the windows and stare out.
"This is a good day,"
he tells me when he moves to stand next to me along the window. "What if he's down there, right under my nose, among all those people?"
"Then he won't be too hard to find."
My eyes skitter over to the men and women walking along the sidewalks, enjoying their night, when Declan pulls me away.
"I'm doing everything I can. We have several people at this point that are trying to find him. The manifest is only one angle of the many we are working on. But you heard Lachlan," he stresses. "He'll call us with any updates."
"I know, I'm just—"
"On edge,"
he interrupts, finishing my thought, and he's right. I want answers, and these past few days of waiting are eating me alive.
"Not tonight. I want to see that smile again."
"You act like it's the first time you've ever seen me smile."
"It's the first time I've seen you truly smile from your soul. You, Elizabeth. You wear it differently than the woman I knew in Chicago, and I want to see it again,"
he says, and then picks me up, hoisting me over his shoulder. "Declan!" I squeal out in playfulness. "What are you doing?"
"I'm going to get you naked, tie you up, and then order myself dinner," he teases.
"You're such a romantic asshole." Chapter 10. My first morning here at One Hyde Place was a busy one. No time for lounging in bed until the afternoon. Declan was up early yelling on the phone at a hacker he hired to find out more information on my dad. After that call ended, I sat in his office with him as he proceeded to make more calls about my father, growing more and more impatient as his stress amplified. He's been putting himself under so much pressure to find him, but I didn't want him to get any more worked up than he already was, so I convinced him to step away for a while and take a shower with me to calm him down. After we were dressed, I met with the head of security downstairs to input all my information, along with my iris and fingerprint scans. Declan then introduced me to a few of the employees that I would be seeing on a daily basis, before we returned to the apartment. It wasn't but a few minutes later that the woman who works for the butler service arrived with groceries we requested earlier in the morning. And now I sit in the living room, reading A Tourist's Guide to London that I asked Lachlan to bring over from his hotel. He dropped it off earlier, along with a new cell phone that Declan insisted on me having, instead of the cheap disposable one I was using since I left Nina's phone back in the States. Lachlan input his number, along with all of Declan's, before heading back out to run a few errands for us. But it's now inching closer to 1 o'clock, and I'm growing hungry. I rifle through the fridge, looking for something easy, and decide on a simple grilled cheese. It's practically all I know how to cook, but it's comforting and reminds me of my brother. "Is there a fire extinguisher handy?" Declan jokes when he walks into the room. I flip the sandwich with the spatula, and then flip him the middle finger. "What a lovely gesture. If we're done with the pleasantries, I'd like to make a request." Turning the burner off, I slide my grilled cheese onto a plate and walk over to the island bar to sit next to Declan. He hands over an invitation engraved on heavy linen paper with an embossed gold seal at the top. "What's the Caledonian Club?" I ask, setting the invitation down on the cold soapstone countertop. "The private members' club I've been associated with my whole life. Both my father and grandfather were members." "Is this one of those male-only chauvinist clubs where you all stand around, smoke cigars, and compete with each other to prove who has the biggest dick?" I badger, and then take a bite of my food. "Something like that. But luckily for you, they started to allow women to accompany members at the social events a few years ago." "How progressive of them." "Yes, well, if you're done being stabby, I've RSVP'd our pleasured acceptance," he informs me with an appeasing smirk. "When is it?" "This evening." "Tonight?" I blurt in surprise. "Declan, I don't have anything to wear. All my formal attire is back in Chicago." "Harrods is right across the street," he tells me. "Lachlan can take you." I drop my sandwich onto the plate, huffing in mild irritation. "Lachlan? Really? So I'm not allowed to walk across the street by myself, something a child is capable of doing?" "I thought I made my concerns clear before we came." "You did, but I didn't think he'd be at my side at all times." He cups my cheek as he stands, saying, "Must you fight me on everything?" "Fine," I exhaust. "I'll see it your way this time, but you know he's going to be pissed at you when he finds out you're forcing him to do this particular errand." "That old man is always pissed at me. I can handle him." I laugh under my breath, enjoying the lightness of our exchange, and then ask, "What's the attire?" "Black tie." He then gives me a kiss and starts heading back to his office when he calls out over his shoulder, "I'll call for Lachlan." "Where is he taking me again?" "Harrods," he shouts from his office. I grab my tourist book, flip to the shopping section, and read while I finish my lunch. I don't have to wait long for Lachlan to arrive. He's slightly distracted, quiet as the day moves forward, but I don't push him to talk. Instead, I gather gowns to try on. I'm not sure what Declan's preferences are the way I knew Bennett's. I had more time to learn about Bennett, to study him. So I spend a good amount of time pulling gowns, second-guessing, and shoving them back on the rack. Thank God for patient sales associates. Lachlan sits outside the fitting room as I try on the various dresses. One by one, until I finally make my choice when I slip on the Givenchy in Kambu green. I decide to take a step out and show Lachlan, but when I do, he's not there. I walk past the empty chair and then hear his hushed voice. Peeking around the corner, I spot him a few racks down on his cell and quickly retreat when I see him look my way. I strain to hear what he's saying, hoping that it has something to do with my dad, but when I hear his harsh tone barking, "Calm down, Camilla," under his breath, my mind begins to spin. Camilla? I step back into the fitting room and wonder why that name sounds so familiar. I trace back, and it finally clicks. Cal's girlfriend. I met her a few months ago when I accompanied Bennett on a trip to New York City. It was the night Declan showed up unexpectedly at his father's house. But why the hell is Lachlan talking to her? Whatever the reason, he clearly doesn't want me to know. Declan would have his ass if he knew Lachlan left me alone, so whatever he's talking to her about must outweigh the risk. After I make my purchases, he walks me back home and leaves after I'm safely inside the building. "How'd it go?" Declan asks when I enter the apartment, and I hold up the garment bag, saying, "I found a dress." "Good," he says, and my unease intensifies with the knowledge that Lachlan, a man that Declan highly trusts, is corresponding with his father's girlfriend. "Everything okay? You look worried." I drape the gown over the back of the couch and approach Declan. "I heard something strange today, and it has me feeling unnerved," I tell him. "What happened?" he questions with concern. "It could be nothing, but did you know that Lachlan knows your father's girlfriend?" "Camilla?" "Yeah." "Why? What happened?" "I overheard him on the phone with her. He sounded mad or maybe annoyed." "What did you hear him say?" "Nothing, really. He just snapped at her to calm down, and when I heard him use her name, I went back to the fitting room. Something about the tone he used with her and the fact that he'd been distant the whole time I was shopping made me apprehensive." I see the unpleasant look on his face and ask, "What is it?" "When we were scrambling to find you, I answered his phone when he wasn't in the room. It was her, and she called him baby. When she realized it was me on the line, she quickly ended the call." "Did you ask Lachlan what was going on?" "He dismissed it as them being old friends. Honestly, my mind was completely fucked at the time." "Maybe it's nothing," I tell him. "Maybe, but I'll address it with him before I leave you alone with him again." "Declan." "Don't contest me. I'm not willing to risk anything when it comes to you." "You can't control the world." "No, but I control you and what happens to you," he tells me as he takes my hand and places it on the side of his neck. "Do you feel that?" I nod as his pulse beats hard into my palm. It's an exorbitant sign of anxiety that he hides well, but it's clearly at war with him on the inside. "That's you," he says. "You're my pulse. You're the reason it beats and keeps me alive. So don't defy me when it comes to protecting you, because I refuse to be reckless with my quintessence." He's strident with his words. I know his desire for ultimate control. He's been that way since the day I met him, and he's explained why he is the way he is. Witnessing the murder of his mother has burdened him into adulthood, and has shaped him into the man he is today. His demanding ways with me might be harsh for others, but they stem from a loving place. "I'm sorry. Truth is, you're the first person who's ever gone to the lengths you do to make sure I'm taken care of. I know I give you a hard time, but the rule you have on me feels good." Before I know it, he has me in his arms, and I'm quick to wrap my legs around his waist as he carries me over to the couch. Tossing me onto my back, he orders me to take my top and bra off, and I do so in mere seconds at the same time he rips off his pants and shirt. "Hands under your ass," he commands, and when I have them securely beneath me, he straddles my body, pinning me under him. "Spit in my hand," is his next directive, and again I obey. His cock is rock hard, and I watch as he beats himself off above me, using my saliva as lube. He's mean and he knows it, teasing me like this. He gives in to his desires while forcing me to withhold my own. He refuses to feed my hunger, leaving me without touch as he pumps the length of himself. I want to touch him, but he's testing my obedience, so I squeeze my thighs together in a lame attempt to create much-needed friction for my throbbing clit. I can't contain myself as I watch him stare down at me while he indulges his craving. His breaths begin to stagger unevenly as a sheen of sweat coats his hairline. Every groan that escapes his throat spurs me farther, and I press my thighs together even harder. The moment my body writhes in utter heat, he catches me. "Open your legs," he barks, and I do. He then leans forward and locks his free hand around my neck to keep control of me. My pussy aches painfully for him to fill me up, but I know he has no intentions. When I see the muscles of his abs begin to contract, he's getting close. He chokes on a breath of air, his grip around my neck tightening, and then explodes all over me, scenting me in his semen. His hand leaves my neck, and he kisses me roughly before getting off the couch. I lie here and look up at him when he says, "Don't clean that off, and don't wear any perfume tonight." I sit up, and a few drops of his cum roll down between my breasts. Lucky for me, my dress doesn't have a plunging neckline, I tease with a smile, knowing he gets off, leaving his mark on me.
I'm going to take a hot shower,
he says, and then kisses my forehead. I admire his firm ass as I watch him walk to the bedroom. While he's in the shower, I take my time doing my makeup and hair. The dress may not have a